Hello and welcome to another episode of the Cultures Podcast with me, James Allen, Fionn and Mike, and we're here with a very special guest back for the second time during this podcast, the fantastic, the brilliant, the oracle of Wrexham Football Club, the man on the inside. It is none other than Thomas Wynne Lewis. Thomas, thanks so much for coming on again, man.
Hey, listen, boys, thanks very much for having me. I'm none of those things you just mentioned, but thanks nonetheless. But hey, listen, I'm absolutely delighted to be back on. And before we start, just wanted to say your Barclaysmen stuff has just had me in stitches for months. And just goes to show that we can, as guys approaching our middle age, we can sort of just name all players and just have a great time. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, thank you so much. It has. I think the boys will agree with it. It has been a mental time, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been just waiting for the money. Where's the fucking money?
Yeah.
When did it pay off?
Telegraph, Guardian, nothing.
I mean, to be honest, the standard of stuff you were putting out, you should have all paid your mortgage. If there's any justice in the world, none of you should have a mortgage left. You should have paid it off by now.
With a tweet, imagine that.
But there's no justice in the world, so we're still going. But yeah, so I in the preparation for this, I thought we'd be quite prepared. And yes, as even though it's not yet, but this is the St. David's Day special, 1st of March. I had a look when it was. We're doing Welsh. There's going to be Welsh heavy, I feel. So I asked you to come up with your Barclaysmen 11, Tommy, and your and what was it, 5-a-side of Welshmen, but I feel they may bleed into each other a bit.
I mean, to be honest, there's hardly been that many Welsh players in the Premier League this millennium. But I found all of them. I found a way to get them all in there. I was very heavy on the Welsh. Do you know some of the research that goes into what you guys do? Looking on Google when St. David's Day is, that's fantastic. Fair play.
I'm sure it's near St. Paddy's Day. We'll do. Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah,
that'll do. Yeah, 1st of March, I believe. But yeah, so we'll start with should we start with the 5-a-side, Tommy? Might as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Keep it easy. Mate. Who have you got?
So I'll give you the names, and then I'll give you a brief description why afterwards, if that's all right with you boys.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So I'm gonna go with Paul Jones in goal. I mean, why wouldn't you?
Just for a spell at Liverpool alone.
Yeah, absolutely. A loan spell that lasted, I think, 45 minutes. I think, but we've got Paul Jones in goal. We've got Mark Delaney. I've only gone with one defender because it would be true Wales style from that era to concede loads of goals. So I thought we may as well just go with one defender. I've gone for John Oster in the middle with Simon Davis. And Craig Bellamy up top. You had to have Bellamy up top. But yeah, Paul Jones, to be honest, lads, it has to be for no reason other than Paul Jones is a really quiet guy. Don't remember him doing too many interviews. Really sort of understated. Good goalkeeper for Wales without ever being outstanding. But for whatever reason, for his 50th cap for Wales, he decided to go to probably the hairdressers in Turk. I think there's probably about 7 now. The Turkish boys have probably took over as they have everywhere else. But he went and had a dragon and the number 50 cut into his hair. Bearing in mind he's a very understated, quiet guy. Why he's done that?
Wow.
And then we lost 5-1 at home to Slovakia. And that was his final ever cap. Never played for Wales ever again, and I don't think he's been seen ever again. So yeah, I mean that's Paul Jones, and I mean for me that is your quintessential sort of Barclaysman, isn't it? Just a sort of absolute ridiculous decision from another one.
A rush of blood,
quite level-headed guy.
He went up the leagues, didn't he? And then came back down them as well. Finished at Bognor Regis. What a player! Just still can't believe he got to Liverpool on loan. I don't know what happened there or what went on.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Crazy.
It was absolute. I remember. I remember after he did play one game. Did he play more than one game? I remember he played one game definitely. Although I think he was third choice at Southampton at the time, and I think it was Benitez, wasn't it? Brought him into Liverpool on loan, and it was like, how do you go from being third choice at Southampton to playing for Liverpool the next week? Absolutely nuts. But I remember. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say it was in 2004, and he became Liverpool's oldest post-war debutant. There you go.
It's just absolutely fantastic. I remember after the game, he'd said in an interview, it was a dream of his. I think he was a Liverpool fan growing up, and he'd said something along the lines of, I'd like to think that the Kop know their football, and they gave me a standing ovation. Yeah, they know their football. They know that you were a competition winner, really, Paul. Getting an appearance in front of the Kop for Liverpool, absolute competition winner. But yeah, fair play. He seems like a decent bloke, but the haircut thing is the main reason for me. It's absolutely nuts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, didn't even know it happened. Gonna have to look into that.
We're gonna have to get fan pictures of that.
That's absolutely. It'll be on the screen in the middle.
But from a defender, I've gone for Mark Delaney, which is ludicrous in itself because he's a right full back. Having just a right full back on his own at the back is a recipe for disaster. But I feel it's something John Toshak would have done for Wales, so I thought, why not? John Toshak, by the way, the only international manager, surely since the 1980s, who didn't own a mobile phone. There you go. There's a fact.
Really? He's probably the only person to go from Wales to Iran as well.
Until 2022.
There you go. I mean, Mark Delaney, to be honest, very boring with Mark Delaney because Mark Delaney is very boring. He just looks like he never looked interested in football at all. He was a good defender for Wales and Aston Villa.
Yeah, he was good for Villa.
He was one of those guys who's very much that sort of Barclaysmen era. Barclaysmen era was the last era in which you could have a fullback in which his only job was put it in the stand. They can't score in the stand. Put it in the stand. Yeah. So I feel like he was a dinosaur, but he was sort of the last breed of that sort of fullback. So I think he deserves his place for that alone, to be honest.
I think Gary Neville gets very uppity about how good, but like Gary Neville was essentially, for a lot of his career, I put it in Rosette fullback.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Take everything Gary Neville says with a pinch of salt. There you go.
Gary Neville was very much in the Mark Delaney echelon. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, to be honest, probably the harshest thing I could say about Delaney is he's a shit Gary Neville. That's very harsh on Delaney. Neville was a good player, we know that, but yeah, Delaney, bless him, and he just didn't look like he wanted to be there. It was like who was the player for Spurs? Was it Esu Akoto who didn't like
Akoto,
yeah. He got the tube to every game.
Christian Gross did that. It didn't really work out well for him, did it? But yeah, I don't know if you remember that. But yeah, John Oster, midfield. To be honest, guys, John Oster.
What could have been?
Well, I mean, he's one of those players. He played a lot of Premier League games. He played over 100 Premier League games. But does anyone remember him doing anything?
No.
I don't.
I remember him being bright when he was young at Everton in the 1-to-1 kit.
Yeah.
And thought he was going to go on to better things, but he just seemed to, followed his career through Football Manager, but he just seemed to be Championship League One, slow decline. Where did he end up?
To be honest, mate, I was just going to say, he dropped out of the Premier League and you're thinking, that'll be him done. And then he came back with Reading. So he was, that's how in my head he qualifies, because he was like 2006, 2007. By the way, you guys must have 1,000,001 different sort of criteria of what is the quintessential.
Reading are one of the fucking best, the most underrated teams. They had Lita, they had Doyle, they had Hanneman, they had fucking Jimmy Kebe.
Kitson.
Yeah.
Kitson.
Absolutely loaded.
Kitson. And I like, see in my head, the quintessential era and I think I've said this to you, James, in the past, the quintessential era was 2 years either side of Pigeon Detectives releasing their debut album.
Yes, please.
That is the quintessential for me.
Yes,
but yeah. And I just think John Oster he came back from the dead, if you like, and then continued to do nothing on a football field, but played every game.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Who else was there? There's Glenn. There was something, an event. I think it was before Christmas now that we've missed it. But for 30 quid, you could go and listen to Glenn Little, Leroy Lee.
Oh, yeah, was
else.
it?
Yeah. Have a chat at Reading. Yeah.
I've got to say, I saw Glenn Little. Do you know what? I'm absolutely gutted now. You've mentioned
he was a Wrexham player, wasn't he?
He played for Wrexham, and he was an absolute cult hero at Wrexham. He was a massive.
He's about 47, wasn't he, on his 7th knee replacement?
But he lived. There was an infamous house that Wrexham owned on the outskirts of Wrexham, a little place called Rossdalen, and it was basically, to all intents purposes, it was known as a shagging house. And there was 5 or 6 Wrexham players there, and Glenn Little was probably 20 years older than all the rest of them. But Glenn Little was the biggest womanizer out of all of them while he was living there. And his tales. I saw him at the London Wells Centre before Christmas, talking about Wrexham. And he, honestly, one of the most entertaining guys you'll ever meet. Just amazing. But yeah, plenty of stories that we probably shouldn't mention. Absolutely. But yeah, what a guy. And I'm absolutely gutted now that you've mentioned him. He should have been in there. But yeah, I've gone anyway for the Wales. 2 more for the Wales. I've gone for Simon Davis. Haircut alone, Simon Davis.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
It was almost like he looked at Barry Horn from the 90s, and went, I want a bit of that. I want to look like Barry Horn. So 10 years later, with the perm and everything, outstanding.
Yeah. It's another one of them players
as well.
Yeah, it was about to say, it's another one of them players that definitely scored 25 goals a season.
Yeah.
When you think that, he always seems to score, but yeah.
Yeah, you look at Wikipedia, it's actually 11.
8 goals in 14 years, something like that.
He was absolutely awesome, absolutely rapid down the right wing, and then never quite pushed on. I think Spurs probably, it was probably Aaron Lennon or someone like that came in, and that was him done. But what an absolute guy. He scored against Italy as well at the Millennium, glory days. But yeah, then Craig Bellamy up top. I mean, I'm sure he's featured in a lot of your 11s, Craig Bellamy, for the golf club alone.
I love him.
Yeah, and absolute lunatic, always been considered a lunatic, and in true Wales style, we've made him our national manager.
And he's becoming even so as a manager now.
He's doing really well.
No, but just with the post-match interviews, just we're fucking shouting.
Because there was that infamous one, wasn't there? Was it against Finland, where he just came out and went, "Look, we were shit," whilst he was still playing for them, and he's carried that on.
Yeah.
But it's great. What he's done's fantastic.
He has been absolutely awesome as manager. Do you know what, that Finland interview? If you haven't seen it, it's worth going back and watching it, because he absolutely terrorises Jonathan Johansson, the ex-Charlton player, who I think scored both goals.
Blasphemy.
Yeah, I know, exactly, yeah. And Bellamy just says, Johansson scored today. He shouldn't be scoring. He's not good enough to score. Yeah. And it's just absolutely hammered him. Johansson must be watching the interview going, wow, why do I deserve this? I don't deserve this. That was Bellamy all over. And to be fair, he has mellowed quite a bit, but he hasn't lost the game yet. Well, it'd be interesting to see when we lose. It'll be interesting to see how he reacts to that. But yeah, he's been class so far.
Definitely one player I didn't think could go into management.
Yeah,
especially in his younger years as well. But
have you ever met him?
It surprised me.
I met him in London last year, and to be honest, he was quite rude. I thought he was quite rude, but and I was a bit gutted because I've always really liked him, but I think that's quite consistent. But then, I've got to cut him a bit of slack as well. Now that he's won some games, I've got to cut him a bit of slack.
Yeah.
No, I think at the same time he probably just doesn't want to be bothered, which a lot of players. But yeah,
I wouldn't mark him at 5-a-side. I wouldn't go anywhere near him at 5-a-side. Let him run past me.
But I think it was Carragher, wasn't it? He said recently, Craig Bellamy was the one player that sticks out. He used to talk through the game.
Right.
When like some players do, some players don't, but he would literally not stop talking. I think Carragher said something like Robbie Fowler had missed a chance, and Carragher gone, fucking hell, Robbie, what are you doing? And Bellamy had said to him, what are you going on about? You're not fit to lace his boots like that. And I just thought that's quite a funny thing to say halfway through a game. But yeah, he speaks his mind. His autobiography I need to read actually, because there's a funny bit about Charlie Adam. I don't know if you've read that bit.
I remember it coming out actually.
When he joins Liverpool, and he said a respected player, which I'm pretty sure is either Gerrard or Carragher. Probably Gerrard had said, this fat prick's absolutely useless. I don't know why we signed him and stuff like that. Just, after a season of playing well for Blackpool, Liverpool were in those, and that's another thing. The Barclays era, you had like a proper banter era for Liverpool as well, which is quite funny.
The Houllier years,
alongside opposite
the Hodgson years,
and the Hodgson years. Two separate ones.
Yeah. But he had a really good 2 spells at Liverpool. Like he joined initially with Rafa, and then he came back.
Yeah,
he was still doing really he was still boss.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just think it's always hilarious, when big clubs like now. I'll be honest, I don't watch a lot of Premier League football now. Like the era that we're talking about now was, as a neutral, I've always been a neutral. My family are Everton fans, which mean I hate Everton. But I was actually gutted. I wanted them to go down so we could play them next year, but that's not happening. But I, as a neutral watching the Premier League, it was just full. The Barclaysmen era was just full of absolute human hand grenades, and I just think that's the most entertaining thing ever.
Great way to put it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Did any of them drip down for you to go and watch later in their careers? Down at Wrexham?
Funnily enough, John Oster, and I don't remember him in that game either. I can't remember who he was there. I can't remember who he was playing. He played for a non-league side. It might have been someone like Weymouth or something. I've got it in my head. I'm sure he managed them as well. But he definitely dropped down the leagues, and he definitely played against Wrexham. And true John Oster style, I just don't remember anything about his performance or anything like that. I remember he was at Doncaster for a few years, but I don't think we played him in the league. I think we'd gone down to non-league at that point. But yeah, certainly in my 11, with just my Barclaysmen 11, not necessarily Welsh. I've got all those 5, but I've got a couple who have dropped down, like Ormerod played for us. And I mean, we were so excited when he joined Wrexham. We thought, oh my God, Brett Ormerod. I mean, he was 36, but it was only 2 years since he played in the Premier League, and we were just really, really excited to see him. And he was okay, but I mean, you sort of expect a little bit better from someone who played in the Premier League 2 years ago.
I think he went like I remember when we did the little one on him for Blackpool. He was I think within 3 years of playing in the Premier League, he was playing for Bamber Bridge and Paddy.
Bloody hell.
Straight down.
He went on a Wrexham podcast, and I'd never heard much about him. I didn't know what he was like off the field, but he went on this podcast, and let's say since finishing playing football, he's enjoying his life a little bit. I think he'd been on a little bit more than just the pints. I think maybe the nose pints have been involved somewhere. He was absolutely, far be it from me to slander him, but I mean, yeah, I've just done it. But he was absolutely, but he was entertaining as well. He was really good value, and he was good character. But yeah, like I say, disappointing for Wrexham, Ormerod, but yeah, like proper Barclaysman he was as well.
You've arguably got 3 in your current team now, haven't you? With Fletcher, McLean, and now Jay Rodriguez joining the call.
Rodriguez, yeah.
It's
I should have been more Wrexham heavy with my 11 really, but yeah, it's one of them. It just
Ben Foster in goal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Neil Taylor. God, there's a whole lot. Yeah.
I went to school with Neil Taylor. There you go. There you go. I was ahead of him in the school team. Now he was 3 years younger, and he was a lot better. But good guy, really good guy, Neil Taylor. And yeah, it's one of them, isn't it? Like, you hear stories. Everyone who was in school with him with me, they all say the same. Like, oh, he was nothing in school. I was like, no, he was fantastic. Come on, let's be fair. He was absolutely awesome. But yeah, I've just gone for. I've tried to be a little bit cleverer, and you know that never bodes well for me, to be honest. But I've tried to sort of go for guys that perhaps you wouldn't sort of get, you know, too often. I mean, I've got the five I mentioned. I'll tell you what, I'll just go through them. I'll tell you now. So we've got Paul Jones and Mark Delaney, you know about them. I've got Andy O'Brien and Richard Dunn. And you probably had them quite a lot, I don't imagine.
Richard Dunn is
I've just gone for those purely because... What's that, sorry?
Said Andy O'Brien not as much as we'd like. But
yeah. I've gone for him and Richard Dunn purely because I think I said something. I said about someone earlier on. If it was Delaney, I think it was the last era. The Barclaysmen era was the last era where you had just normal blokes that you could imagine working in Screwfix.
Yeah.
Yes,
Andy O'Brien is definitely one of them. He looks like he should be a plasterer.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I sort of like.
You're a big fan of players who put it in Rosine, aren't you?
Yeah. It's like the Peter Kay advert, isn't it? Have it, and it was like that was acceptable. I reckon Andy O'Brien. I reckon Andy O'Brien could find the away end with a clearance at Newcastle as well.
with his head.
Definitely don't get it anymore though. I think it's like, I don't know if it's like sort of more like the rock starification, if you want to say that, the footballers are. But like, yeah, you don't see it like there's like, I suppose, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the most Andy O'Brien footballer now. Maybe Adam Wharton, someone like that. But even then.
There's not too many though, is there? There's not, and I just think if you could do some sort of simulation, a bit like on Rocky VI, where he fights the current world champion, if you could put a Barclaysman team, and obviously this 11 I've done is a 4-4-2. It has to be a 4-4-2. But if you could have a Barclaysman team against this lot now, it'd be so fascinating. And play with Barclays era rules. So I mean, like, dangerous challenges are allowed.
Not just allowed, encouraged.
No VAR.
No VAR.
Absolutely no VAR. Now, left back, I think you'll like this one. You may have had him. You will have spoke about him. I absolutely hate this man because he left Wrexham for Shrewsbury. It's Sam Ricketts. He was our manager. But that's not the reason I put him in there, because I absolutely hate him. Sammy the Snake, I call him. He sold us down the river to go to Shrewsbury, local rivals. But then we should have always known he wouldn't stay with Wrexham because he's from a horsey family. And we all know a horsey family, posh, middle class, Tories, essentially. So it was never going to work at Wrexham. I reckon Sam Ricketts, probably early doors as manager, walked through Wrexham Town Centre. James, you know Wrexham Town Centre. I'm sure you are. It's not the most salubrious town centre that you've ever had. I reckon he took a walk through and saw the sheer amount of pound shops, and he said, "I've made a big mistake taking over the racecourse."
12 Betfred.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. So I think, obviously he was far more at home at Shrewsbury. But the big one for me, and this is Barclaysman heritage for me. Horsey family. His dad was the world show jumping champion in 1978.
Was he really?
He was indeed.
Really?
So there you go. That is
landed gentry money, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
I believe,
his family are used to jumping fences then.
Yeah. But I believe when he was at Swansea, he used to play in jodhpurs as well, but I haven't got that confirmed. But yet to be confirmed, that one. But yeah, he was. I just had to have him in for those reasons, really. Absolutely.
Superb reasons.
You never feel like you could claim him as like one of your own. A bit like Owen with Liverpool, where like he was from Cheshire and then obviously he fucked off and went to United. It's a bit like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael Owen as well, by the way, the only England player ever to have won all his caps and never having lived in England.
Really?
No way.
Yeah. There you go.
What was it? So is it Real Madrid at the time? Must have been.
No, he lives in
He's in Harden, doesn't he?
north of next to the golf course.
Does he still
play
live
golf
there?
there?
All right.
18th hole by his patio window.
There you go. Yeah, he used to get a helicopter to Newcastle training, didn't he?
Fucking hell.
Absolute. I mean, that's not bad. That's the opposite of what a Barclaysman should be, isn't it?
Yeah. Maybe
you should be turning up in your Ford Cortina, never mind.
Sam Ricketts turning up on his dad's horse.
I was going to say I basically still live as if we live in the Barclaysman area. I've still got my Citroen Saxo in the drive. I listen to indie bands from that era. I mean, the reason I'm on my phone rather than my laptop today is that I need a new charger, but I won't go on Amazon and get it delivered by tomorrow. I'll wait until I'm going to one of the major cities in North Wales that we have, something like Rhyl. I'll wait till I'm passing by. I live a Barclaysman lifestyle. I live as if it's 2007. So this is why I loved your lads' work so much.
Oh, wow.
We're glad we can keep it, because I'd love to go back to 2007 though. So,
yeah. The 05.
Yeah.
The 05 Matt Clay.
Yeah, life was easy, wasn't it? Life was simple. It was a simpler time.
It was a simpler time.
It was.
It was so much better though. Life was just better in every way.
Yeah.
I mean, like, some of the haircuts.
Every generation does say that, but we do have a good cause, right? A little bit of technology, good football. Yeah, it was just right.
I miss going to the nightclub in Ruthin and saying, "Didn't Loire play well today?" You know, that's sort of conversation.
Yeah, you look a bit strange going into saying that
just
today.
Shouting over. Yeah. No, I said Loire.
We used to name drinks after. Did anyone remember the craze of calling it a Lee Bowyer? It was like a half and half WKD blue and iron brew mixed together with like port or something, and it was called a Lee Bowyer. Great days, just great days. Anyway, I'll rush through the rest. I'm going on about. I tend to do that.
So. You go on as long as you like.
That's our clips, that Mike. Get that noted down.
So we've got the back four. We've got Simon Davis on the right, John Oster in the middle, and you'll love this. And I think they would have complemented each other. I think Two Guy and John Oster in the middle.
Oh yes. They'd have won trophies.
Yeah,
they'd built a legacy together.
You know what? Right? Two Guy came to the Premier League when he was 30. If somebody like, I don't know, I suppose Bournemouth are the most comparable team to, although Blackburn Leicester really had won a Premier League. But yeah, to come at 30 and spend 8 years in the and be like, he was in the team every week till he was 37, 38. Like, you know,
like Jamie Vardy.
Yeah. But in midfield, he had to actually do some running.
Yeah. He was and you looked at him as well, and you lads would have played football and stuff, and you can't help it when you're playing a team you might not know a lot of the opposition, and you look at them and you size them up, and you look and you think, these don't look up to much, lads. The opposite, when he first came to the Premier League, they must have looked at him and who's this guy with long grey hair?
Yeah. Funny looking fella, isn't he?
But he, what a player though! It's just unbelievable. And sort of similar, just on the left, I've got Lauren Robert, another mainstay, purely because he could just hit the ball so hard, couldn't he?
Yeah,
scored bangers all the time.
Yeah.
But do you see the clip we put on Twitter the other day? The goal that's never spoken about, that weird scorpion overhead kick thing.
Yes, yeah.
And no one ever speaks about that.
He just scored.
I'd forgotten all about that. Yeah. Very underrated.
This is what I mean about sort of that era. There was loads of absolute bangers. Which year was it when I think that goal of the month, the famous goal of the month, where every goal.
Oh yeah, it's like 2005 with Stephen Reid at Blackburn.
There you go.
Yeah,
Paul Scholes against Aston Villa.
Yeah.
Absolutely unbelievable.
Oh, yes, every goal would be goal of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the prize for that, the prize this is how good it was. The prize was like, if you win, you get 2 tickets to like a Premier League game of your choice.
Well, the scorer did that.
Yeah.
Paul Scholes sat at fucking
Liverpool.
You wouldn't get that now. Like football teams coming into your primary school doing keep-ups with you, it just doesn't happen. It was a different time.
I remember when slightly before, it was probably in the 90s actually, where you used to win £200 worth of premium bonds. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Crikey. When did we stop spotting the ball as well? Didn't we spot the ball?
But they used to, as well. They don't put the pools on the fucking classified results anymore.
No.
My mum once won on spot the ball and bought a yellow Citroen Saxo. They should bring it back.
With you saying about Lauren Roberto, I've just imagine the Geordie Dars at the time who can't get the names right. Yeah. When they had Laurent Robert, that's Laurent Robert Lake.
Laurent Robert.
And Oliver Bernard.
I genuinely think saying that Ket Spire is the perfect name for a Geordie accent.
Ket Spire.
They never getting that one wrong.
Oliver Bernard.
Oliver Bernard plays well, did he? Like
they had a proper team of. I've just realised that I've got a few Geordies in there. I've got a couple at least, but and I remember I've obviously Bellamy and Ormerod up front, but I mean Bellamy sending texts to Alan Shearer, that was proper Barclays heritage as well, like proper abusing him after a loss. But yeah, just that Newcastle team were great though, weren't they? Under Bobby Robson, awesome.
Yeah.
Nobby Solana.
Jermaine Genius was good for them as well, wasn't he? At that time,
very good. He liked he scored the odd banger as well, didn't he? Jermaine Genius.
A cardinal sin of mine on Football Manager or on Championship Manager 07, whichever one it was. I signed Jermaine Genius, and I regret that now. Due to his LinkedIn personality, and obviously not just the LinkedIn stuff, the sexual impropriety as well.
Yeah, that'll do. Like,
hard to know which is a bigger crime, really.
Coin. All about at this time as well, Tom, like mid-noughties, in terms of like the Wales national this is going to sound mental, but did Goldie Looking Chain play at the Millennium Stadium before a game or something? Have I got that right?
Yeah, you have. I was at the game. It was the England game. I think you won.
The England game.
Doing Imal Heed. That'd be
that'd be amazing.
Yeah, we've come a long way on and off the pitch, I think, in the last few years. But I think you won 1-0. Joe Cole got the winner, but they did play before the game, and they said as well. They said, we're going to play Your Missus is a Nutter. We'd like to dedicate this to Victoria Beckham. And like she said, we've heard she likes a drink, and it was Christ. And then I think watching it back after when I got home, like later on, Martin Tyler I think was doing the presenting, or he was at the commentary, and he said something along the lines that he was so disgusted by what had happened with Goldie Looking Chain that he said something along the lines of. After all the great music to come from Wales, imagine booking that or something like that. The only time I've ever heard like Martin Tyler angry on a commentary before now. It was absolutely great. Like,
someone should have played "My Mother's Got a Penis." Change his mind.
And dedicate that to Victoria Beckham. No.
I think you'd have got away with that then. I think, you know what I mean? You might not get away with a song like that these days.
Yeah, that's mental. That if someone said like, "Oh, this one's for like Rebecca Vardy," you'd be lambasted. You'd be cancelled. Yeah, no, that's a cracking 11. That.
Yeah, I've gone for the mixture of everything, lads. To be honest, I didn't. Yeah, I mean, you've probably had names, probably a couple in mind, but you probably have names you've heard a million times over the last 5-6 months, I'd imagine. But I mean, it's honest to God, like I've just enjoyed what you lads have done. It's just absolute every day, just wetting myself. Mainly at you, speaking to Bab over your shoulder, mate. absolutely hilarious. But yeah, I bet you've had a proper laugh with it, haven't you?
Absolutely,
it's been mental. It has been mental, yeah.
I loved when the clubs took it on as well, when the clubs themselves were posting. You know what I mean? That's when you know you've made it then.
Oh, yeah.
What does made it mean?
Portsmouth were like putty in our hands, weren't they? They wouldn't leave us alone.
We're in the DMs.
Yeah, I think we were going to go down and present them a trophy or something, weren't we? But never materialised.
Harry Redknapp had a book signing.
Yeah.
He has been mentioned, I wouldn't say a lot, but he crops up in the conversation of Barclaysmen. Is there any room for Kumas, or have you got a bit of resentment because he played for Tranmere?
Well, I haven't got resentment. He's actually a Wrexham lad. Yeah. But his lad's coming through the system now. I think he's with Liverpool. He's coming through the Wales system now. George Kumas.
Stoke, isn't he, this season?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Of course he is. But no, do you know? Yeah, it's one of them. He was on his day. He was so good. He was unbelievable. Like genuinely, you probably laugh, but I honestly saw him a couple of times for Wales. I was like, he's unplayable. He's absolutely unbelievable. But then those sort of games would happen like once a year. But like if you
against Cyprus,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. But there was a game against Ireland where Ireland had a really good side at the time. They had like Robbie Keane, Shay Given in goal, and really good players, Richard Dunn, and like proper Barclaysmen 11 really for Ireland. But they were all Premier League players, and they absolutely battered us. But we drew 2-2 because Kumas just absolutely. I mean, without him, we probably would have lost 5-0. But he was that good on the day. We got a 2-2 draw. But yeah, no, he was proper Barclaysman. But I remember people involved with Liverpool, the youth system and things like that with Liverpool. They all said he was like genuinely up there in the same bracket as Gerrard coming through the youth system.
Wow,
he was that good, but he just didn't fancy it. Really, one of them familiar tale, isn't it?
That a lot of people talk about, like, I don't know, everyone. It's a bit boring when people say about that England generation of like, oh, they should have won stuff.
Yeah.
But when you look back 20 years ago to that Wales team of like Bellamy and Kumas and Simon Davies, was there an inkling that you were like, looking back, do you think, oh, we had the players to probably, if things went differently, do you think you could have qualified for?
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably get a bit of stick off some Wales fans. Some Wales fans like love what John Oster did. I'm not one of those people. I think he held us back, and basically, I thought we had a really good side. And people say, oh, he brought through the likes of like Bale, Ramsey, stuff like that, so that the next generation with Speed and Coleman could sort of, he walked so they could run, sort of thing. I don't really subscribe to that. He picked them because they were the best players for him to pick. It wasn't a case of, it wasn't, for me, it wasn't a case of, oh, I'm going to stop playing the older lads and I'm just going to, he just played the best players he had. But anyway, yeah, I've always felt, though, ever since I was a kid, I've sort of looked and gone, and you get excited as a Wales fan. You go, I remember in the 90s, we had Mark Hughes, Dean Saunders, who was a great player at the time, Giggs, Gary Speed, even Kevin Ratcliffe is still a good player. And
John Hartson.
Yeah, John Hartson. Yeah. We had so many good players, and yet, like, we were losing like 5-0 to Georgia, and you're like, how does this happen?
Yeah.
Mainly because we decided to appoint Bobby Gould, but like, I think it's just a raft of really poor appointments. But you are right; it's crazy, to be honest, because I feel like we are a sort of almost like a top of the second tier nation, if that sort of makes sense. I think you've got your top nations, and I think we're probably maybe the best of the next one down. So that's why we're qualified. Well, I mean, we've qualified for 3 out of the last 4 tournaments, which is amazing.
You're just used to it now, aren't you? So,
and it's great, really. It's amazing. Absolutely loving it. Looks like we've got a great chance this time as well. But I mean, at the same time, you sort of, with Wales, you just sort of think, yeah, we'll fuck it up somehow. But also, you look back when we were rubbish, we had so many more Premier League players. Now we've got a lot of Championship players. But maybe that's, I'm going on a little bit, but maybe that's down to...
Ben Woodburn's still getting the squad.
Who's that, sir?
Does Ben Woodburn still get called up?
No. He's really fallen off, Woodburn, which is a shame. I was really excited about him. Real shame. He's fallen right down the rankings now. But no, it's like we don't have a lot of top flight players. But I think maybe that's a reflection on, that there are a lot. I don't want to sound like Nigel Farage here, but there are a lot of foreign players. Well, it's bad when I'm going to say that. What's going on here?
No,
there's more foreign players now. I think it's difficult for your Welsh and English players to play regular now, isn't it?
Well, you look at Ireland. I've first-hand experience of us getting a lot worse. I don't think there's very, very few players now who play in the top flight. It's mostly Championship players.
Yeah,
and I think there's a lot of, if you look at Scotland's team as well, of it, like McTominay's had to go to Napoli to get played every week.
Yeah.
Billy Gilmore, same thing. And they're the two best. They're the two best players in that team by far, obviously.
Yeah.
And even they can't get regular guaranteed Premier League. So
yeah,
I think
sorry, James, you've got. Mate,
well, if you're a Kiwi, you just come to Nottingham Forest.
No.
When was the last time Wales, or have they ever called up anyone from the Welsh Premier League?
Oh, it hasn't happened since the late 90s. There was a little bit of talk. There was a little bit
strange,
of talk.
I know it's a lower standard, but
it's still not quite there. What's happened in recent years, though? There's guys like David Edwards, who played in 2016 in the Euros. In 2018, he was playing Welsh Prem. So it's happened the other way. You've got ex-Wales internationals who have sort of dropped down. They've played Premier League, and then 2 years later they're in the Welsh Premier League. The standard is getting better, but no, we're still a bit away. And I'm a big champion for the league. I absolutely love it, but I think we're still a little bit away. There was a bit of talk. TNS's goalkeeper Connor Roberts, TNS did well to only lose 2-0 against Fiorentina away. And he was absolutely outstanding. And there was a bit of talk about him coming into the squad, which could have caused problems because we've already got a Connor Roberts in the squad. So that I think I don't think it's quite there yet. Unfortunately, maybe the next 10 years. I always look though, going off on a bit on a tangent here, but the Irish League, since they've gone to summer football, it's gone from strength to strength. I personally think it's probably time the Welsh Prem should look at that. If for no other reason, like the attendances are just
they go right up.
Yeah, because they've got football in June and July then, and obviously most people who support, I don't know, like Real Town or whatever, probably Liverpool fans or whatever.
Well, I mean, like Saturday football in Wales, the attendances are right down because, like you say, everyone's following their site. If they're not following, Cardiff, Swansea, Wrexham, they're going over the border to, especially up here, in North Wales. Most people, Wrexham are obviously well supported now, but traditionally Manchester, Man United, Liverpool, Everton. You're losing those guys. But Friday night football is really well attended, and if it's nice weather, you can get really good crowds in Welsh football. So I think there's something in that. I don't know about you lads as well. It's one of them. I'm a traditionalist in a lot of ways. But you know what? There's nothing better than on a sunny day going in your shorts and t-shirt, watching a game of football.
Absolutely,
it's absolutely brilliant.
Well, I used to say you lived in Buck. I used to go watch Buckley Town. Great little place to go watch football. Yeah, it's good. It's good standard. See some good players, but obviously it's not in the Welsh Premier, but it seems like football to watch at any level. And like there's like you said, around the corner, you can go watch a good game of football for peanuts. You don't have to go and pay arm over fish. You're not going to see Messi play, unfortunately, but you still see the game of football played, and good days. And
I always say, if you're a football fan, you'll watch football anywhere. You watch any football. Me personally, I don't want to sound like a cliche, but I am more into my local football now, and this is why I enjoy talking to you guys about sort of the Barclaysmen era, is because that was the last sort of era that I watched the Premier League. I very rarely watched it now. And I'm almost ashamed of my knowledge of the Premier League now. I can watch the top clubs and learn about a new player each time. Like the lad who got a hat trick for City the other day. Genuinely never heard of him before he got a hat trick. Genuinely, and that's just. I don't really watch any Premier League. You know, I'm watching Wrexham or I'm down my local club.
I think it's all going to go that way, though. Like, I think, like you were saying about League of Ireland, I think with the prices and with everything going sort of more, everything's too expensive. So then, and like, I think once you, I don't know, maybe over the age of 25, you start losing interest. Anyway, you go, I can't be it. So. Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know if you start losing interest, but like start losing interest in it's just money now because it's like with Middlesbrough, like I don't even care about us getting promoted because I know what's going to happen. We're going to finish maybe 17th.
I've heard that quite a lot recently. You know, like Championship fans saying they don't want to go, they want to stay in the Championship. If they get promoted, they're just waiting to come back there because it's a better standard of football. It's more enjoyable, more competitive. In the Premier League, it's rinse and repeat, innit? Look. This season, me and James were chatting yesterday. It's pretty much sorted out relegation now. 3 of 4, and 3 of them came up last season.
Yeah.
It's
and then Wolves.
It's the one contention I have with people who make like hospitality videos. So on the one hand, it's like, oh, great, you are seeing how the other half live, but at the same time, it's like you're giving people a false sense of what a day out of football really is, aren't you? And like, you know, there are people out there that are going to pay 500 quid, and that's on the rise. That's never going to diminish, I think.
It's genuinely, and you know, you're all absolutely spot on, and it's football's left the working class, hasn't it? You know, like it's so sad
100%,
even like you know, Liverpool now they're going. This will be the first time that fans have been in the ground when Liverpool have won a title since 1991, is it something like that? Since they last. So, but I was chatting to a mate of mine who's been going since the 80s to Liverpool and never misses a game, and he said that the atmosphere is awful. And it's
awful. There was TikTok yesterday, wasn't there? Two people. One of them's she's a Man United fan TikToker, and they're doing this lyrics to a song, and then he's pretending to cry when he sees Salah. It's like that's who's at the games now. Do you know what I mean? The game is for everyone. Everyone's allowed to go and watch. I'm not saying they shouldn't be there. I'm just saying that is the people that are there now. You've not got your blood spit red copites. Like it's unfortunately the way the game's gone.
Yeah.
One thing I did want to ask, speaking of Welsh football, there was a lot of talk last month with the FAW about bringing the Welsh Cup back as a sort of to get a place into Europe. I'm for one, I'm all for that. I think that's phenomenal. What do you think? Is that a possibility for, you know, Wrexham, Newport, Swansea, and Cardiff, or even Welsh Prem teams?
Well, the EFL have voted it down, so it can't happen now anyway. But I would have been for it, but I've got to be fair as well and look at the other side. I could understand the arguments against. There was two main arguments against. There was guys who support Welsh league clubs in the second tier who would have had to give up their place in the cup so that the 4 could come in. And I understood their point completely. I think that was unfair. And people, you know, English people, to be honest, are saying, well, how's that fair? They're playing in the English system and they're getting the benefits of perhaps qualifying for Europe through the Welsh system. That's not fair. And I genuinely do understand that. That you can't really argue against it. But the reason I was for it was because, like, I'm a fan of Welsh football and I'm a Wrexham fan. And I think for both, it would have been fantastic. I mean, Wrexham, the candidate of maybe getting into Europe would have been amazing. I think for Welsh clubs in the top tier, it would have been class. I mean, you know, they would have had to sacrifice one Welsh domestic club getting into Europe. Maybe, I mean, there's no guarantee one of the 4 would have won it, but I mean, the likelihood is they would. But I think for the sake of, like, let's imagine Wrexham going to Carnarvon Town. I mean, you know, there'd be 2,000 people there. That would keep the club going for you know. I mean, they get good crowds, Carnarvon. Don't get me wrong, but you know, a big payday for them, and the exposure as well. I mean, you know, Wrexham bring massive exposure. Cardiff and Swansea are big clubs. I think it would have been great, but I mean, unfortunately, it's not going to happen. But I'm just about old enough to remember the 90s that Wrexham won the last Welsh Cup where the English-based Welsh clubs were allowed in. And I think it was like there was a massive crowd, the old Cardiff Arms Park. We beat Cardiff in the final, and those were amazing days. You know, just absolute class. But then, you know, we reap the benefits of playing in England, so we can't have our cake and eat it. And in some ways, just for the sake, it would have been a massive headache with everyone complaining. Maybe it's a good thing that it hasn't happened.
Is there an argument for the fact as well that like TNS do so well they won't move into like the bottom league of the English system because there's no point in them doing that because they can gain a European spot every year?
Right, yeah, obviously, yeah. Oswestry Town aren't getting in the.
No, that's what I mean, isn't it? Yeah, it's like why?
Yeah, I've got friends who are at TNS, and they always have a go at me because I'm always having a pop at TNS. But like, yeah, that's exactly you've nailed it there, really, James, because they get so much money. They get serious money. You're talking not quite in the millions, but not far off every year. Well, this year they would have gone into the millions because they went into the group stage. It's rinse and repeat. So they've got all this money from Europe. So they're going to win the league again. They'll probably win it next year, even though Penabont have given them a really good run this year. But then
TNS won it the other year, didn't they?
Sorry?
Connors Key won it the other year, didn't they?
They did, yeah. They won it 4 years ago. Andy Morrison was in charge.
Andy Morrison, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, ex-Man City. And he's the manager of Sri Lanka now.
Yeah, he went on there, yeah.
Absolutely. But that was brilliant, to be honest. But yeah, at the same time, that was a bit of a freak occurrence. They were heavily backed as well. There was the chairman there, local recruitment firm Gap Personnel. I'm sure you've heard of him.
Yeah.
He was in charge of them. He pumped serious money in for 2 years, but then he sort of won 2 titles, and he went, I can't afford to keep pumping money in. So it was almost a bit of a freak occurrence. But then, I think it's really, really difficult. And TNS, what they do.
Yeah.
But TNS, no one's there to watch them. They get literally. I mean, they've got a bowling alley there, and the joke is when they post a crowd of over 300, they're counting the pins in the bowling alley as well. It's yeah.
Did they really get that low attendance figures, did they?
Yeah, they're really poorly, to the point where there's 16 teams in the second tier, and 10 of them get bigger crowds than TNS.
Oh, Jesus.
So, I mean, Colwyn Bay, for example, they're top of the second tier. Colwyn Bay average about 700-800. TNS get half that. So, I mean, Welsh football's a bit lopsided at the moment. It's a shame. But honest to God, and I'm not just saying this to try and promote it as much as I can, but the product is great. The standard is great. Like you say, you watch Buckley in the second tier. The standard is decent. I know Buckley struggle with their pitch sometimes, so that doesn't allow fantastic football. But I've got to say, though, if you're ever, you're in Buckley, if the other two of you, if you're ever in Buckley, go and watch them.
Yeah.
Their manager alone is worth the attendance fee. He's absolutely he's box office. He's absolutely box office.
We should do like a Wales away thing.
We'll rope you in, Tommy, definitely.
I tell you what, it's almost like talk about characters in the Barclaysmen era. The Welsh football is full of absolute lunatics in a good way.
I was going to ask you before we go, Tommy, your of all time. Now, this is on the spot stuff, but your favourite Barclaysman of all time. We've got to pick one.
Christ! I tell you what, I'm going to have a look at my team again. Right. Favourite Barclaysman of all time. The thing is, I mean, that you look through them and you think that there's all different reasons. My Ricketts anecdote is my favourite anecdote, but I'm not picking him because he's a snake, so we're not having him. I think I'd probably have to go for Two Guy.
Solid pick. Yeah.
He's just, and it's I suppose it's a bit of a boring pick in some ways, but just purely, like you said before, 30 years old to come into the league. He was 30 when he arrived at Blackburn. And he played 300 games. How's he managed that?
Yeah.
Just the long grey locks that he sported as well. And I mean, what an absolute baller. I mean, you were right as well. I mentioned that Blackburn side, Chimbonda, Morton Gams Pedersen. just absolutely full of Barclaysmen, wasn't it?
Yeah, full.
Rich vein.
Yeah. I think I reckon at one time they could have fielded 11 absolute quintessential Barclaysmen.
Absolutely agree. Yeah.
They had, at one point, I'm sure they had two goalkeepers, Friedland, Robinson.
Yeah.
So they've got a reserve keeper.
Yeah.
And then they had Jason Brown, another Welsh Barclaysman as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Jason Brown. Yeah, I really don't remember. I was going back to John Oster though. I must have been probably half his 13. Well, you can't do half of 13, 6.5. But probably about 6 of the games that he played for Wales, I must have been. And I just don't remember a minute he played. I just think, did John Oster exist? Is he a conspiracy theory? I don't know.
Oh. Well, it's been lovely to have you back on again, Tom. As always, where can people find you on it? Well, they probably know you already they're probably coming from you, but anyway.
Well, yeah, I'm still doing the Men in Blazers this week in Wrexham, and we're on YouTube, Men in Blazers YouTube. So it'd be great if you could have a look on there. But boys, I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me. Honestly,
thank you.
I had a great laugh for you last time, but this was even better. It was absolutely brilliant. And
we're going to have to get you to because we've got our idea with Mr. Beneventi for Cultures coach trips. So we're going to have to rope you into a Welsh one.
Yeah. Listen, lads, I would absolutely love to go to a Welsh game with you, a Wrexham game, whatever. Just let me know what you fancy, and we'll sort it up. But boys, thank you so much.
No, thank you, mate, very much.
Thank you very much, mate. Yeah, and you can follow us, James. I'll let you do the honours. You do.
Sorry, I went for fuck's sake. Don't bother, guys. Don't bother. Follow us at Cultures Pod on all social media platforms and on YouTube as well. Also, if you enjoyed this and thought, I'm itching for my next fix, if you sign up to Patreon, then you get it a week earlier, which is even better. For £1, for a solitary £1.
Yeah.
Well, and we'll see you next week on another episode.
Yeah, see you later. Bye-bye.